Welcome to the Quotive Corner. However this moment finds you, early in your morning, somewhere in the middle of a packed day, or winding things down tonight, I'm glad you've chosen to pause here. Let's take a few minutes to think about something that sounds simple, almost obvious, and yet quietly undermines more happiness than we'd like to admit. Comparison is the death of joy. This line is commonly attributed to Mark Twain. While the exact wording isn't found in his documented works, Twain did express a similar idea in his letters. In one instance, he suggested that dogs are better off than humans because they don't compare themselves to others. It's a sharp observation, and very much in Twain's style. He had a way of using humor to expose uncomfortable truths, and this is one of those truths. Comparison feels harmless, natural even. From an early age, we're trained to measure ourselves. Grades, performance, income, titles, social standing, followers, applause. Comparison becomes the quiet background noise of life. But joy doesn't thrive in that environment. Joy requires presence. Comparison pulls you into measurement. Joy lives in appreciation. Comparison lives in evaluation. And evaluation rarely feels peaceful. There's something subtle about comparison that makes it particularly corrosive. It shifts the focus from experience to status. Instead of asking, "Am I fulfilled?" we begin asking, "Am I ahead?" Instead of asking, "Is this meaningful?" we ask, "How does this stack up?" That shift is small, but the consequences are large. The problem isn't awareness, it's attachment. There's nothing wrong with observing where you stand. In some contexts, business, athletics, skill development, comparison can be instructive. It can highlight areas for growth. It can sharpen focus. But when comparison becomes identity, joy begins to erode. Because someone will always be ahead of you. Someone younger, someone richer, someone more accomplished, someone more recognized, someone who appears, at least from the outside, more fulfilled. And in the age of curated online lives, the opportunities to compare are endless. You're not just comparing yourself to your neighbors anymore. You're comparing yourself to the most polished versions of people across the world. Twain lived in the 19th century. Imagine what he would have written about social media. He already understood the human tendency to measure self-worth against others, and he recognized how absurd it can become. His humor often exposed how easily pride and insecurity coexist in the same person. Comparison feeds both. It feeds pride when you believe you're ahead. It feeds insecurity when you believe you're behind. Neither state produces stable joy. Joy is rooted in gratitude, in engagement, in presence. Comparison pulls you into a hypothetical scoreboard. And here's something important. Comparison doesn't just steal joy when you're losing. It also steals it when you're winning. Because once your happiness depends on being ahead, it becomes fragile. It requires maintenance. It requires defense. It requires constant checking. That's exhausting. There's also a psychological element here worth considering. Human beings are wired for social hierarchy awareness. It's evolutionary. We assess where we stand in groups because historically, status affected survival. But modern life amplifies that instinct far beyond what it was designed to handle. You weren't meant to compare yourself to millions of people daily. You were meant to develop your craft, build your relationships, live your life. Comparison shifts your focus outward. Growth shifts your focus inward. And growth is sustainable. When you measure yourself against your past self, something changes. That kind of comparison can be healthy. It asks, "Am I better than I was?" instead of, "Am I better than them?" That subtle difference restores control. Because you can influence your trajectory. You cannot control someone else's highlight reel. And here's the irony. The people you compare yourself to are likely doing the same thing. The cycle never stabilizes. Comparison isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. It shows up as a subtle dissatisfaction, a mild irritation, a nagging sense that what you have isn't enough. But that quiet dissatisfaction accumulates. And over time, it dulls appreciation. Twain understood human vanity. He also understood human absurdity. And I suspect he would have delivered this insight with a half smile. recognizing how often we sabotage our own contentment by looking sideways instead of forward. So here's something practical. Notice when comparison enters the picture. When you catch yourself measuring, pause and ask, is this motivating me or diminishing me? If it's motivating you in a constructive way, fine, channel it. If it's diminishing your joy, redirect your attention, return to your work, return to your relationships, return to your values. Because joy grows where attention is placed. And attention is a choice. You don't eliminate comparison entirely. That's unrealistic. But you can refuse to let it dictate your self-worth. And that decision alone restores something important. Peace. Thanks for spending time here at the Quotive Corner. If this reflection helped you rethink how you measure your own life, consider sharing it with someone who might need the reminder. And remember, wisdom isn't in the quote, it's in the reflection. I'll meet you back here for the next one.